Hey there, hat lovers. Today we've got a very special video for you. It's the finals match of the last Premier Challenge between Max and Mark. So us. Hey Max.
Hello.
Yeah. So we've never met in Top Cup before until this past weekend.
Despite
and
numerous promises.
yeah. So those never worked. But we finally did it. And in the finals, no less. So we thought we'd record our battle videos and commentate this match and put it up for everyone to watch. So here it is. So we were both playing Max's team from the Premier Challenge that he won in Victoria. You can see the link to that article in the video description below. But we had an interesting change for day 2 where we ran a slow Smeargle to give us an advantage in Trick Room, which did or did not work out depending on who you talk to.
It could have helped me. It never did.
I really liked it, but yeah.
I liked it too, but my opponents, without knowing it, they just kind of made plays such that it didn't matter. And I was okay with those plays. Like, you can switch your primal out as soon as I'm Dark Voiding, and I'll Dark Void whatever comes in, and I'll be fine. But it never ended up mattering, and none of my opponents ever found out until I told them.
Yeah, well, so here's game 1, and you can see that I led with a Xerneas Groudon, and Max led with Xerneas Salamence. You might notice that Max's Xerneas and my Xerneas have the same nickname. God, what a poser. Copying my nicknames.
Yeah. Mark's trying to push his mixtape on us.
Yeah, so, this lead matchup, I can't remember. I remember having a really hard time picking my leads because we'd played once yesterday and we played the mirror match a few times, so it's a bit predicty in terms of how you try and get the lead matchup. And I felt like Xerneas Groudon was a decent lead. Maybe I was thinking that you'd bring Smeargle so I could just do double spread moves, but that didn't work.
Yeah, well, in the mirror match, Smeargle generally doesn't work out that well for you, just because you have a slower fake out than Kangaskhan, and then there's 3 Pokemon on the opposing team that can outspeed you and hit you with a spread move.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to shut it down. And with this mirror match, you really want to get a good lead matchup based off of trying to set up Xerneas or trying to punish their Xerneas lead, or expecting them not to lead Xerneas and punish their punishes to Xerneas leads.
Yeah, and I admit that after I committed to my Game 1 team, I realized that I really would have rather had Talonflame over Smeargle. And you can see, turn 1, you just hyper-voiced me, and Xerneas set up a Geomancy, and I was just done.
Mm-hmm. And you could have kept it even by setting up your own Geomancy, but I believe you went for a Moonblast here to knock out my Salamence.
Yeah. It wasn't the greatest turn 1 for me, that's for sure. And yeah.
And the fact that Smeargle's already gone down to its Sash also hurt you. Yeah,
and on top of that, because I kill your Salamence, I can't remember what's going to happen after this, but I can't... It was essentially just Smeargle was a bad Pokemon for this game, and it never got better. Oh yeah, you brought in Talonflame, which means I couldn't even fake out the Xerneas.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and because your Xerneas is taking the Hyper Voice damage here, I'm able to knock it out with a Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah, just in general.
So this move is just pretty unpunishable.
Yeah, Game 1 was pretty much over. The only reason the video is still going is because I didn't forfeit immediately. But I could have.
Yeah. There's still the process of selecting moves.
Technically.
Well,
I guess I could. I guess what I was holding out for was maybe I could crit KO your Xerneas or something. Just get through that plus special defense with Groudon. But yeah, you had a commanding position right off the bat, and I really didn't appreciate having brought Smeargle to the game at all. But I do at least keep Groudon a little healthier, potentially. If you were going to Brave Bird it, for instance, and Moonblast it. Just by getting that Intimidate off. Such a sexy animation. Still, never gets old. Brave Bird just looks so good.
Mm-hmm. And we never used it in 2014 or 2015, but we're finally appreciating it now.
Yeah, so I guess I guess that's and then you just crit my Groudon. So there goes that hope.
Yep.
So I needed a crit there to try and come back in this game, and I got critted instead. So it was just a very commanding victory for Max. But yeah, I guess that was a decent play. I mean, I managed to yeah, I managed to get the Intimidate off. Keep you from presumably killing my Groudon. I needed you to just not quick guard there. That would have been great.
Yeah, I'm such a jerk.
Yeah. I mean, there was just
Don't even make it sporting.
No, that was just. I mean, we saw that coming after like the first turn.
Mm-hmm.
This whole game. I'm thankful that the crit on Groudon happened, just so that this video didn't last any longer. So, yeah, and into game 2 we go, and I did adjust for this, leading with a Kangaskhan Xerneas, because yeah, I figured if you did lead any way that you tend to like to lead in the mirror, which is like Salaman's Talonflame or Xerneas Talonflame as you led in game 1, then having that fake out pressure would give me immediate damage and let me set up a Geomancy in response, and we'd at least be tied, but I'd have a Kangaskhan.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you chose the same leads, which does get an Intimidate off into my Kangaskhan, so Kangaskhan not that strong, but the fake out play is pretty strong here.
Well, you haven't seen that I don't have Giga Impact yet, so you could be afraid of that.
Oh man, that would be insane.
I've seen that on Showdown, and it's terrifying. But then I did damage calcs and realized you have to be adamant, and then it's a damage roll. So it's really not that great.
Yeah.
But I think faking out the Salamence here wasn't the best idea.
Well, I mean, you can't argue that it worked out here, because what I figured is you'd set up a Geomancy so that if I set up a Geomancy, we'd at worst be on equal footing.
Yeah, but I feel like if you just faked out the Xerneas, then set up a Geomancy, you could threaten the KO on both of my Pokemon next turn.
I don't think I would, though, because I would be at the whim of a speed tie. Because you would have put on serious damage onto my Xerneas with Double Edge.
No, I wouldn't have set up Geomancy because you'd have faked out my Xerneas.
Oh, yeah, well, that's
and then
true,
your
actually.
Kangaskhan would be faster.
Huh.
And, like, this leads you open to, like, a Dazzling Gleam crit, killing your Xerneas.
That would be very unfortunate. I mean, I guess I might have figured that your Xerneas was going to protect from the fake out because it was pretty obvious. And what I really didn't want was your Salamence dealing tons of damage to my Xerneas on turn 1. Because you could finish off with Talonflame in the back as well. And then even if I do kill your Xerneas, it leaves me in a bad position.
Mm-hmm.
And this turn, I remember wanting that extra bit of damage because I figured you were going to Moonblast Kangaskhan because you couldn't leave it open to just Double Edge. And I wanted to get a Dazzling Gleam, get that extra bit of damage because I know Dazzling Gleam plus Brave Bird from Talonflame doesn't quite KO Xerneas.
Right, and I thought you would just go for a Double Edge because I was pretty confident that a Dazzling Gleam plus a Brave Bird would be enough anyways.
Yeah, and then we did do the calc after, so for anyone watching this video, you do need a little bit of chip damage for Dazzling Gleam plus Brave Bird to KO an opposing Xerneas, if you're both at +2. Yeah, and here, I think you set up Tailwind because, I mean, you want it to be faster and try and win the war that way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's basically over at this point.
Yeah, and I just KO your Talonflame here with Brave Bird because I just said, well, if you don't have Pokemon, like Talonflame is the biggest threat to my Xerneas, and if I can just get that out of there, then I'm good. And then the next turn I can set up my own Tailwind as I protect, and I'll have priority, so you can't prevent it from happening. So, but I also can just Brave Bird your Talonflame or your Xerneas because you just protected. So, Plus, like, Talonflame takes a +2 Dazzling Gleam. Maybe not with recoil.
It lives and gets an attack off.
Yeah, I guess if you had Dazzling Gleamed there, you probably would have killed my Talonflame. By the end of this turn?
Probably. But you would have had a single target Dazzling Gleam on my Xerneas, and it's already at 50%.
Hmm. Yeah, so now I get that off. KO your Xerneas. I feel like over the weekend I went for a double protect play 4 times. It didn't work out, any of them. Like, one time it actually worked, but then he used Aqua Tail on my Groudon with his Rayquaza on the field, so my Groudon died anyways.
With the Kangaskhan.
Yeah. With a Kangaskhan, sorry. Yeah, that was Aqua Tail Parental Bond Aqua Tail there. But yeah, with this format the way it is, I feel like just you sometimes with those speed ties and weird game settings, you have to realize that your out is double protect.
Mm-hmm. Well, on to game 3.
Yeah.
This time I've changed it up by leading with Talonflame. And Mark adopts my lead.
I felt it would be pretty good. And honestly, I felt pretty good about this lead because when we got the matchup, because I got Intimidate onto both of your Pokemon, and like Xerneas threatens your Salamence, so I felt like I had a really good position here. But there was an awkward bit about it because you could set up a Tailwind, and I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what you go for. So that speed control kind of undoes me in a way, but... Now, do you protect Salamence turn 1? Oh, yes! I remember this turn. I really regret not switching to my own Talonflame and back, because that would have preserved my Intimidate, and it also would have put me in a position where I could match Tailwinds with you. And since I had intimidated your Salamence, I wouldn't have lost my Talonflame unless you like doubled into that slot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would have been that was the turn that.
Yeah, thanks to the Intimidate, my Talonflame survives this attack.
I think I was surprised by that too, actually. Like.
Then I get a good chunk off on your Xerneas.
Mm-hmm. I guess I just don't appreciate like how much a Talonflame. I mean, how much Intimidate nullifies that hyper or that
the power.
Air Relate double edge.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just figured that would KO. Or
yeah.
Pretty close, at least.
And here I think I double up into Xerneas, because I know that even if you protect, what your Salamence can do in one turn isn't as devastating as what Xerneas can do. And if I don't attack Xerneas and it doesn't protect, then I basically lose the game. But even if you protected and attack with Salamence, I can still win afterwards.
Hmm.
And thankfully that happens.
Yeah, I think I might have just, obviously these turns are going by really quickly in the battle video, but in real time, we're taking a lot of time to think about these turns, and I think at the end of that decision I said, this is a very obvious protect play for Xerneas. I could Hyper Voice KO his Talonflame, and Max would find himself a little bit behind here. But so I opted not to protect, and you saw where that left me because you made the safe play that sort of dealt with the most important threat.
And here, I believe I just go straight for a Dazzling Gleam and maybe a Hyper Voice or a Draco Meteor.
I go for a Brave Bird.
Yeah, maybe you just
I finish off your Salamence here because I figure that Xerneas can't kill Talonflame, and Salamence can, and you've still got a Tailwind up. So if I just kill Salamence, then Talonflame will survive this turn, and I can set up a Tailwind next turn. But as a result, I leave my own Salamence like kind of high and dry because your Tailwind is still up for one more turn after this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is one of those 4 turns coming up here where a double protect seems really appealing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because with Dazzling Gleam and the Threat of Eruption, you can't just switch in your last Pokemon. Which is a Groudon.
Yeah.
But I have a Tailwind up, so without protecting, the last thing you can do is just get a Brave Bird off or get a Tailwind up.
Yeah,
I do go for a Tailwind.
I do go for the double protect and tailwind because then I'll have the speed control. If I had switched in Groudon there, and you do Dazzling Gleam and Eruption, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Can Groudon take that? Like, that's
It
two
doesn't
resisted
take
attacks.
it well.
Yeah, but I'd have a
I think-
Tailwind up and you'd have a Tailwind
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, so you'd get Salamence and your Groudon in.
In
So-
Tailwind.
Mm-hmm.
That's another turn I maybe could have brought something back, but I didn't. Oh, man.
I think maybe if you had just Brave Birded my Groudon, you could have lowered it enough such that your Groudon would definitely survive. Then you wouldn't have Tailwind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel like... So, yeah, what if I had brought Salamence back there and set up a Tailwind and let Groudon take a Dazzling Gleam and an Eruption, it would probably still be alive, and the important part at the end of the turn is that it's alive and can KO your Groudon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But... And then my Talonflame can threaten a Brave Bird on your Xerneas.
And your Talonflame would have died. Because it set up a Tailwind.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I would have brought Salamence in, which would threaten a Double Edge on your Xerneas at full power. But... And then it would still be in Tailwind the turn after, so even if you Geomancy. Yeah, so that...
Well, I wouldn't have Geomanced, I would have just had to Dazzling Gleam, and if I survive, I get the knockouts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Actually, that's fair. You would survive, you'd outspeed, and then you Dazzling Gleam KO my Salamence, and my Groudon would be at super low HP, so...
And because of double protects, you only actually get one turn of Tailwind, effectively. Because I could have protected on the turn immediately after, and then you get a turn of attacking, and then I protect the next turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the first turn not switching to Talonflame was really what set the pace for this battle, because that let you get a Tailwind off unmatched, and you really kept the lead from there.
Mm-hmm. And then with the late game Geomancy, a critical hit Flamethrower was your last hope.
Critical hit Flamethrower with a burn, thank you very much. That was what I was fishing for.
So, with that, we have our finals.
Yeah, and I mean, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, second Premier Challenge win of 2016 already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, doing pretty good. This is a very common, very strong team in the format.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are feeling a lot of despair right now as they just can't see a team that beats this right away. And a lot of just kind of given up on beating it at this point. Because I feel like it's a team that's certainly ahead of its time in the format. Like, I feel like this archetype's just been refined to maybe the level of a spring regionals team, whereas every other archetype's currently approaching the fall regionals level.
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a bit, about just how this team feels like it's found the right partners, it's found the movesets that accompany it very well.
Mm-hmm. And, like, there's some variations, like the type of Groudon you want to run, like...
Cresselia is often a substitute over, say, Salamence, I believe.
Or Kangaskhan.
Or Kangaskhan.
Yeah, like, on the first day, Hongyu, he had a pretty interesting team where he had a Cresselia and a Crobat, and I believe he took off Kangaskhan and Talonflame.
Yeah.
And you faced him the day before, and you said that you felt you had a terrible matchup against that.
Yeah, so there are definitely ways that you can build teams to beat this archetype. Hongyu, by the way, is a player from British Columbia. He's probably the best player that no one really knows about.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe him.
Yeah, he dominates, literally dominates. I think he's won half of the total Premier Challenges in BC so far.
Yeah, since the 2016 season started, he's just been killing it.
Yeah, and this year he looks like he's going to have a passport, so look for him at spring regionals or winter regionals in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he had a team. Yeah. That's the important part.
Yeah. Back to the team. Like, Mark felt he had a very bad matchup against it, and that's part of the reason why we used the slow Smeargle, is that because it would underspeed things like Groudon and Cresselia in Trick Room, we could allow him to set up Trick Room and then Dark Void all his Pokemon, and then just get enough turns to have Trick Room run out and then have a Geomancy Xerneas.
Yeah, like this team, you can play around Trick Room to some extent, but when you're facing a team that's got, say, Gravity, Precipice Blades, Groudon, you can't really get all of the turns you want to deal with that. But it was a really good team, and one of the ways we tried to deal with it was Max's idea to run this slow Smeargle. So it's definitely an option to keep in mind as we approach winter regionals.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess that's it. Thanks for watching. You can follow us at vgcwithhats.com. We're not the only writers there. We've been writing a lot of articles, but we've got a whole crew with Rafa, Demetrios,
Hayden,
Justin, Wesley, if he exists still. He hasn't really written anything in a long time.
He exists.
He exists. He was at the Premier Challenge. Hey, Wesley. How's it going? So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and
hats out.
Hats out.